Have you ever just looked at some piece of technology you use every single day and thought to yourself, why this? Why are we all using these things that can feel, well, kind of clunky or just plain old, when surely something better must exist? Well, today we're going to dig into why we get stuck on certain technologies.
Okay, let's just jump right in with the most famous example of all, the QWERT keyboard. I mean, think about it. It's on your phone, it's on your laptop, and it was originally designed for mechanical typewriters to solve a problem that literally doesn't exist anymore. So what's the deal? Why are we still using it? Are we just stuck?
Now, this is the popular story you've probably heard, right? Writers like Jared Diamond have talked about this supposedly infinitely superior alternative called the Dvorak keyboard. And the story goes that the market, for whatever reason, just rejected it, locking all of us into this inferior QWERTY path. It's a really compelling idea, but you gotta wonder, is it actually true?
Yeah, this whole idea of getting stuck isn't just some fun little anecdote. It's actually a real economic theory, and it's called path dependence. And the whole theory basically claims that sometimes the very first path we start walking down, even if it's not the best one, becomes the one we're all stuck on for good.
Here's a super simple way to think about it. Just imagine that tomorrow we discovered that driving on the left side of the road was somehow way safer or more efficient. Would you be the first person to try it out on your morning commute? No way, of course not. The cost and the risk of switching are just way too high unless everybody agrees to switch at the exact same time. And that is the core idea of being stuck. So let's put a more formal definition on it. Path dependence is the theory that, simply put, history matters. A lot. The choices that were made way back in the past can seriously constrain the choices we have available to us today, sometimes even locking an entire market into a standard that might not actually be the most efficient one out there. Okay, now this right here is a really crucial distinction we need to make. On one hand, you have weak path dependence. That's basically common sense, right? It just says the past matters, and we don't just throw away old investments for no reason. But strong path dependence, well, that makes a much bolder claim. It says we actually get stuck with inferior options, that the first product to hit the market can totally crush superior products that come later. That is the controversial version of the theory we're going to put to the test. So let's do it. Let's put this theory on trial with our first case file, the legendary videotape war between Betamax and VHS. You've heard this story a million times, right? The common wisdom, and Wired magazine captures it perfectly here, is that Betamax was the smaller, higher quality, the better format that somehow inexplicably lost to the big, clunky, inferior VHS. It's held up as the classic case of path dependence, or so the story goes. But let's actually look at the facts. The truth is, the two technologies were really similar. The key difference came down to a strategic bet each company made. Sony bet that what people really wanted was a small, portable, kind of paperback-size cassette, but that choice limited its recording time to just 1 hour. The makers of VHS, on the other hand, they bet that people wanted to record entire movies, so they chose a bigger cassette that let them record for 2 hours right from the start. And this just brilliantly shows what happened next. So Betamax had a 2-year head start. It was monopoly. According to that strong path dependence theory, it should have been totally locked in. But look, as soon as VHS shows up with its longer recording time, it starts to take over fast. This is the exact opposite of what the theory predicts should happen. So you see, the market didn't get stuck at all. Consumers weren't being irrational. For most people who wanted to tape movies off their TV, longer recording time was just a way more valuable feature. The market chose the product that actually gave them what they wanted. Okay, so the whole Betamax story doesn't quite hold up under scrutiny. But what about the big one, the most famous example of them all? Let's go back to the keyboard riddle. The myth is, you have to admit, a fantastic story. It claims the QWERT layout was intentionally designed to be inefficient. Why? To keep the little mechanical arms of the first typewriters from jamming into each other. A design literally built for slowness that we're now stuck with forever. But the reality, it's completely different. Far from being some slowpoke design, the QWERTY layout actually proved itself by winning typing speed contests back in the 1800s against all sorts of other competing layouts. It won because, at the time, it was a really effective and fast design. So where did this whole Dvorak is way better idea even come from? Well, the main study that claimed these massive benefits was done during World War II by, wait for it, August Dvorak, the inventor. Yeah. Later, more objective studies found that the tiny benefits you might get from switching just don't make up for the huge cost of retraining.
I mean, think about it. If the returns were so massive, a single company with a bunch of typists could gain a huge competitive advantage by switching. None of them have.
And hey, if you still think we're just hopelessly locked into QWRT, just look around at all these successful ergonomic keyboards out there. They use the same letters, sure, but they have a totally different physical layout and they definitely require retraining. The market has shown time and again it will adopt new designs when people see a real, tangible benefit.
All right, time for our final case file. This one brings us into the modern computer era, the epic battle for the personal computer desktop.
And here we go again with another story we all think we know. The beautiful, user-friendly, technologically superior Apple Macintosh tragically lost out to the clunky, complicated, and inferior Windows plus Intel platform, what we call Wintel. It's the ultimate David and Goliath story, except this time, Goliath won. But before we declare this a market failure, let's just stop and ask a really simple question. What does superior actually mean to a normal user? Is it just about the elegant design, or is it maybe a combination of things, like price, performance, how much software is available, your choice of printers and other accessories, or maybe even just the ability to pop open the case and tinker with it? Now, what's really fascinating here is the massive strategic difference. See, Apple chose a closed proprietary system. The early Macs were these sealed boxes, really hard to expand. The PC world was the total opposite, an open architecture that anyone could build for. And this attracted hobbyists, tinkerers, and businesses, which led to this absolutely massive ecosystem of software and hardware that Apple's beautiful walled garden just couldn't compete with. This quote just sums it up perfectly. Apple made a strategic choice. The dominance of the Wintel platform wasn't some kind of failure to recognize a superior product. It was the direct result of an open strategy winning out over a closed one, which ultimately gave consumers more choice, more software, and lower prices. So, after digging into these three classic cases, what's the final verdict? Who really gets to decide what technology is actually the best?
I think what this really shows us is that superiority isn't some objective thing you can measure in a lab. In a real market, it's the result of millions of us, all making our own individual choices, weighing all the factors that matter to each of us: price, features, convenience, software, and our own unique needs.
And that leaves us with a final, really big question to chew on. If we decide that the outcome of all those millions of individual choices is somehow wrong or inefficient, who could possibly have enough wisdom and enough knowledge to overrule all of us and choose a single, better path for an entire society? It's something to think about the next time you hear one of those stories about a great technology that the market supposedly got wrong.